Hello, everyone, and welcome into crushthestreet.com. We're doing this interview now. It got rescheduled. I was on the road. I was traveling. I wasn't able to connect before, but we are here. I'm here with Brian, the UK Bitcoin Master. You can find him at the ukbitcoinmaster.com. We'll have the link in the description area. And also bitcoininterviews.com. He was referred over to me by Adam Meister, someone who we've gone to a number of times and had some great calls with regarding Bitcoin. And he's encouraged us to get in at very early stages. And I have to be honest, we were in the right place at the right time with the perfect storm of events. And with what we're seeing right now, it's a very exciting times to be hedging against inflation. And this morning, the year-over-year headline CPI soaring to 5.4%. We haven't seen numbers like this in 30 years. And so things are ramping up, and we're going to be talking to Brian today about why he got into Bitcoin, why he likes it, and just the fundamental reasons behind it. So Brian, thanks so much for coming on the show with me today.
Hey, it's absolutely superb to be on with you. And thank you to my good friend, Adam Meister, for reaching out to you guys on my behalf. I really appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure and it's an honor to have you on. So let's get right into it. Obviously, I mentioned that CPI number. We're seeing inflation that we haven't seen officially in 30 years. So inflation is starting to become a mainstream headline, which is one of the reasons why people have believed in Bitcoin now for years. I mean, many people thought it was early to be talking about it. Why are we investing in gold? Why do we care about inflation? But those of us who've been invested in crypto, those of us who've been invested in precious metals, we've seen this now coming for years. GDP, debt to GDP is at 125% here in the US, and it's just going up exponentially. So, let's just start off with you, your background, and what led you into Bitcoin.
Sure. Well, I've been in the Bitcoin rabbit hole for just over 4 years now. Prior to getting involved in Bitcoin, I mean, if I roll the clock right back, I was a lorry driver, a truck driver, I think you might call it over there. Very regular guy, working hard to feed my family. Unfortunately, I got really unwell, took me on a roller coaster ride of dreadful health, drugs, in and out of hospital. Life was just absolutely atrocious. Then I came across a business opportunity that helped. This product helped me get back on my feet. I've done that for 24 years. And to be honest with you, Kenny, I thought I was retired. My wife and I had moved down to the Canary Islands. We literally had moved down there to retire and enjoy the sunshine and enjoy life. And it was whilst down there that I got a Skype call from an old business colleague of mine. And, he asked the question, what do you know about Bitcoin? And honestly, hand on heart, I actually said, what the hell is that? And he said, what, you've never heard of cryptocurrency? I said, and what the hell is that? I'd never heard of it. And for an hour and 3/4, he chatted to my wife and I, and my wife being analytical, every time he said something, she said, why? So he sort of drilled down. And, then the common question, well, what's in it for you? Is it one of those things? And, he said, there's absolutely nothing in it for me apart from the satisfaction of speaking to loads of my friends and family. And I know that a few will at least have the common sense to do a little bit of research. And he said, all I'm asking, Brian, is just do a little bit of research. And we got off that call. I literally jumped onto YouTube. I found Bitcoin Meister. And if I'm correct, one of the first things I saw him on was your Crush the Street. And you were just talking to him about how off the Richter scale in terms of excitement he is about Bitcoin, and he was beating the drum about people not getting it. You got to buy and store it. You don't know other coins. And I just thought, crikey, either this guy he's got it, or he's lost the plot completely. And I started to follow his channel. And then I found Andreas Antonopoulos and a few others. And I mean, seriously, it was about 1:45 in the afternoon when I got off the Skype with my friend. And literally by 5 p.m., I'd gone on to local Bitcoins. I'd connected with somebody there, went through the holding a bit of card up to say that I was a real person and I was buying it for my own benefit. And I bought a Bitcoin by the end of that day, one Bitcoin. I think think I paid about $1,950 for it. And of course, I wasn't satisfied. I was in the rabbit hole. I was searching for every YouTuber I could, kept following Adam Meister every day. His show was going out, the One Bitcoin Show, and I kept following that. And a few weeks later, I think I'd added maybe 3 or 4 more Bitcoin to the pot. And I was just absolutely going nuts over this. I mean, I did not understand it. I just simply didn't. But I'm one of these people that when you know, you know. And I just felt with the little bit that I'd learned that when you've got something that's scarce, if people want it, if they see a use for it, scarcity creates number go up. And I sort of got that. And then I found Trace Mayer and I went through his 7 network effects, and it just seemed to make sense to me. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I mean, I remember getting my Bitcoin off of local Bitcoins onto a paper wallet. And it's like, oh my Lord, the next step, and we won't go into all of that, but then I had to work out how the heck eventually I get it off that paper wallet because I bought a Trezor, and it sort of all stemmed from there, really. And then in 2018, we'd come back to the UK for some personal family reasons. And I don't know what it was, but somebody, I think it was Adam Meister, he said, you need to be in motion. He said, if you feel you've got something to offer the Bitcoin space, no matter how novice he wasn't talking to me, but I felt he was talking at me. He said, jump on YouTube. You need a voice. We need more voices. And I was never done anything like that before. And I'm thinking, oh, crikey. And I bought a setup, and I remember uploading videos that were 3 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, just talking about, the basics that I knew. And my channel just evolved from there to where it is today.
That's incredible. It's amazing how you just dived into that, and you were just so, the conviction you had to dive into Bitcoin, and of course being in the right place at the right time. And I think it's a sense of people and just understanding people, how important just the society's instinct, or what people are going to be doing and what governments are going to be doing, and the money printing that is happening. And you just know when you're getting into something scarce, how powerful that is. And of course, we're talking about something that didn't have 5,000 years for the world to price it in.
Yeah.
Gold and silver, arguably, in many ways, are cheap because they're not reflecting what has happened truly to the monetary system, in my opinion. But they're still much higher in the sense that the world has had a lot more time to figure out equilibrium with those asset classes. And, Bitcoin, I mean, it's starting to get there, I would say. I mean, it's starting to get to the point where it's higher. I mean, we're talking about it at $30,000 plus. It hit $65,000. So, I mean, it's definitely nothing to scoff at now. I mean, it's being talked about on CNBC, Bloomberg. I mean, this is not a blog discussion anymore, talking about some technology. I mean, this has become an asset class that you click on MarketWatch, which to me is crazy because I've been following this now for many, many years. And we knew it had the potential. We knew what was coming, and it did. And, now the discussion is, where are we and where are we going?
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting because, whilst I'm a regular guy and I didn't understand a lot of this, there's a lot of it that I now do understand just due to my absolute desire to, digest information. So, the first thing I did was read Saifedean Ammous's book, The Bitcoin Standard. That was really helpful. Then I went down the rabbit hole with the creature from Jekyll Island about the dawn of the Federal Reserve in 1913, I believe it was, or 1910, I can't remember. And all of that sort of got me to understand. I mean, honestly, if somebody said to me, what is money? I really would hold up a £20 note or $100 bill, and I'd say that. And I just didn't, I kept hearing this term fiat. And I seriously, I thought, why are they talking about cars for? I just didn't understand it all. Honestly, hand on my heart, Fiat, I thought, well, that's a car. And I understand that now because I bought Bitcoin, I then wanted to understand what I've bought. And I did my live show last night, and there was a tweet that I talked about on there, and it went through the stages of, first you laugh at it and ignore it, and then it irritates you, and then you got to find it, then you buy some, then because you buy some, you've got to get into the rabbit hole and you learn more about it, and then ultimately you become a Bitcoiner. For me, I jumped in as a Bitcoiner first and learned second. And I honestly think, for me personally, that's born out of a quote that came from Richard Branson. He said, if you are presented with a really good opportunity, jump in first and learn about it second. And I literally jumped in, and honestly, we are all in Bitcoin. And I say it on my show all the time, you are either in or you are out. For me, there's no middle ground. I will moon with the ship, or I will go down with the ship. I don't want to play with altcoins. I'm sure that many of them going forward, there'll be more that evolve that have got some kind of use case. We could, Ethereum and DeFi and all that sort of stuff, or more like CeFi in my opinion. But I think that Bitcoin is the one shot that humanity has got at being, a better monetary system, a fairer monetary system, banking the unbanked. And, we could talk about El Salvador and, Tonga, etc. I just feel in my heart, even though sometimes it's in here, but I don't know how to get it out here, that this is our one shot. And, I am absolutely blessed to be living through this. I heard it said the other day, 1 in a 10,000 year event. So how many people didn't or won't get to live through these times, watching it unfold? And I feel, and again, I can't quantify it to you, but I feel that we are watching the monetary system change, and there's going to be battles ahead. They're not going down without a fight. Bitcoin isn't going to grow to maybe world reserve status or store of value or whatever without, battles. I think, that's going to come. We've seen the energy FUD that's out there, and it is nothing more than FUD. I don't particularly subscribe to this, the council that Michael Saylor's put together, but it's great that there's information coming out that actually shows, how much of Bitcoin is renewables and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff going on out there that whilst we're in the middle of all this turbulence, we are moving, I feel, to a better world. That's what I feel. Now that's going to play out over decades. You talked about, gold 5,000 years to get where it is, fiat currencies. I think the dollar's 50 years old in August, I believe. And Max Kaiser keeps saying, is it the end? Is it going down on, on its 50th, on or before its 50th birthday? I don't know. I feel that maybe somehow it will survive. It will change. Maybe there'll be the digital dollar, but I think there'll be the option to opt out and into a currency that's fairer, and will serve the world better. That's how I feel. That's just heart on my sleeve stuff.
Yeah, it's powerful. So I know that you have the red eyes on your Twitter page. Everyone go check out Brian at his Twitter page and follow him there. And I don't say this to berate you, but I know that when Tom Brady put the red eyes, I was texting people going, this is starting to feel euphoric. We've been talking about Bitcoin as, hey, we're in this for the long haul. This is an epic trend we're seeing. We're still very early in it, but it did start to feel like we were going a little bit too high, too fast. I mean, I don't think any of us would have expected in 2021 to be talking about Bitcoin 65,000. I think, when Bitcoin was 3,000 back in March of 2020, we would have been pretty happy with Bitcoin at 20,000 or 15,000 for that matter. I mean, we would have still been having this exciting conversation now. But here we are at 33,000. Bitcoin did go to 65. So it's all relative. But I did feel like, hey, this is now the celebrities are talking about it. I mean, there's just a lot of speculation happening without any correction. And the problem is when you have a lot of people sitting on gains, there's happy sellers for a long period of time. And then when you have the people that bought at 55 getting anxious, that just creates a lot of downward pressure. When they continue to see Bitcoin at 30, they get impatient. And then you just have new sellers, new sellers, new sellers, at least in the short term here. I'm not talking long-term growth, but just some of your thoughts on that.
Well, it's interesting you say that because, when we get into Bitcoin, we don't understand why it's flying up, why it's flying down. And then I believe that, you will hold your Bitcoin. You'll keep that strong hand, as I call it, if you start to understand what's going on. Now, I have absolutely no interest in trading. I would advise anybody, if you try to trade Bitcoin, you're going to get totally wrecked. It really is more like a savings policy. So put something away for the rainy day and do it long term. But equally, what I've been doing recently, last few months, certainly, I've been jumping on any podcast that Willy Woo is on. He's a well-known and respected analyst. Same with a guy he's Australian. His name's Contrarian Dude. And I literally been following what they're talking about in terms of the charts and where they feel it might be going, and all this sort of stuff. I don't understand all their models that they use. I don't want to understand them. But here's what Willy Woo has said, and I do respect this guy. And that is, he said he saw his analysis of all the wallets showed that in December and January, there was a huge influx of whales. And then in February onwards, those same whales with short-term wallets were selling out all of their Bitcoins at a profit because of what happened. And that has caused a downward spiral. And what he noticed was, whilst all those very short-term wallets were selling, what that was doing, the long-term holder wallets were accumulating, and that was a capitulation. He said, we've now been going through an accumulation phase, and he said that accumulation phase is coming to its natural end. He said, what happened. It's jumped back down because, as you rightly pointed out, it went too quick. He said, we're back at where we should be. He said, but my analysis shows me, and I don't want to misquote him, but I'm absolutely certain on Peter McCormack's podcast, What Bitcoin Did, he quoted that right now Bitcoin's true value should be about 157,000 per coin, and it's currently 33-ish. So I like to keep my feet on the ground and understand that whilst Bitcoin is such a small asset class, as we know right now, it can be manipulated by these whales. But what fills me with promise and hope is what he was talking about when he said, and there was also another guy, William Clemente III. He's a really young lad that's jumped on a podcast with Anthony Pompliano, or Pomp, and the guy's a really clever guy, and all three of them were chatting. So I'm listening to those and I'm learning. I want to understand what makes the price jump up like it did, then come back down like it did. And the only thing I can say is listening to Willy Woo for certain has really helped me to understand that we may even sit, where we are in this 30 to 34K range for another couple of months yet. What does that allow me to do? Stack more Satoshis on sale. But then he's talking about he still holds, with his analysis, looking at all the metrics he uses, that we could very well in Q4 of this year see a Bitcoin up between 200,000 and 350,000 a coin. Now, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that's going to happen. But what I am feeling here, that this bull market is not done. I feel that, there's been some huge whales have jumped in. They've manipulated it for some profit. I get that. I understand why they would do that. But to understand this bit about which wallets are doing what, and William Clemente was saying a couple of weeks ago that he said the wallets that are short-term wallets are selling out, addresses, whatever, and the long-term holders are accumulating. And he said that is absolutely clear to see on Glassnode and the metrics that he uses. So, on a personal level, that just helps me to keep calm. It's such a volatile asset that if you don't have a strong stomach for this, you are going to get totally freaked out of your coins. For me, I am doing this for my children, grandchildren, their children and grandchildren, and a small amount of it for my lovely wife and I in the years that we've got left to enjoy life, go and see a bit more of the world. But ultimately, I'm storing this for future generations to come.
Yeah, that's powerful. Well, Brian, let's talk a little bit about the viability of Bitcoin being the one Bitcoin. And again, I bring up these concerns as I know a lot of people have them. And it doesn't mean that I am anti Bitcoin. I mean, I can go to a 3.5-star hotel. No, it's not the best hotel in the world, but still decide to go to that hotel. And don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing Bitcoin to a 3.5-star hotel. But my point being is I can acknowledge the negatives and still have a position in it. And I want people to understand that and understand the difference. And we don't need to delude ourselves to make a decision in something. And so one thing I will bring up, and I think this could be dead weight on Bitcoin going forward here potentially, but I'd like to get your thoughts on it. And that is the headline news of Elon and its concern with Bitcoin consuming too much power, too much electricity. And with the trends, the world going in the direction they're going, could that be a problem for Bitcoin going forward here if we get a lot of mainstream news headlines that Bitcoin is bad for the environment? And then there's other cryptocurrency alternatives that may not be as much of a draw on energy.
Yep, sure. Well, firstly, I believe all Bitcoin alternatives will be speculative because they are not decentralized. They have a central point of failure where they can be taken down, they can be altered, manipulated. So, Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency that can't happen because of consensus. So, number one, I believe again that Bitcoin is the only real shot we've got at real sound money for humanity for the future. I do believe that there, like I've said earlier, there will be coins out there that will maybe have a utility, but most of them, I think, will be speculative. People think they can jump in and make money on them. Now, that said, then we start to look at this energy FUD, Bitcoin's boiling the oceans FUD. And that is, and I talk about this on my shows a lot, that is so easy if you don't choose to jump into the rabbit hole and do a little bit of basic research. That is so easy as a narrative for, the mainstream media, governments, etc., to pump. But for those people willing to get in and learn and understand this, again, I watched Michael Saylor's, the Bitcoin Mining Council. They're going to have a quarterly meeting with some of the greatest CEOs within, I think it's publicly owned companies. I believe they're public companies. And basically some of these guys that I was listening to, they've done their research. They surveyed, I believe it was over 1,000 different entities. And what they found was that 56% of all Bitcoin mining guaranteed is using renewables, hydroelectricity, wasted electricity, etc. But they said probably more like 69%. And what they actually said, there was a chart that they referenced, and it said that Bitcoin actually uses, I think the world uses 160,000 terawatt hours of electricity annually, and Bitcoin uses less than 1%. So for me personally, that gives me satisfaction that, we are in the right place. Bitcoin is using renewable energy. You do have miners with the old chips that are obviously dying off, the miners that have been banned in China that have now got to get out. A lot of them literally are not taking their rigs with them because they're old fashioned, and they're buying new rigs that will mine more efficiently when they get to wherever they're going, that will allow them to mine Bitcoin. So, on a personal level, I'm totally not fazed by that. Absolutely categorically not fazed, because I trust in people like Saylor. He's put his money where his mouth is with the amount of Bitcoin that he's purchased, and how he's out there on Twitter. These guys seem to know exactly what they were talking about. I was just listening in as a spectator to that Mining Council video because I wanted to know. I wanted to be able to talk to my viewers and quote some of the, things they were saying. And, they're saying that as time moves on, Bitcoin will lead the charge for a much cleaner world, because it literally there's not entices, I'm trying to think of a word, it literally encourages clean mining using clean energy. You've got El Salvador now going to start using volcanic energy. You've got these hydro dams with wasted energy. You've got electric grids where 30% upwards, I believe, of their energy just goes to waste. You've got gold mining that's spewing out all this, I believe it's methane, into the environment. And yet Bitcoin uses less than 1% or 1.2% or whatever the figure is. And all the mainstream media want to jump all over it and say that Bitcoin's dirty, it's boiling the oceans, and we need to take it down. I wonder why.
Well, I'd like to get your thoughts on what our situation looks like with gold and silver. Being that you're into Bitcoin, what are your thoughts on gold and silver as hedges against inflation? Is it something you invest in? Do you like? Do you think they're maybe less speculative, but serving a similar purpose?
Not for me personally. I feel that you got to remember, I'm a baby boomer, and the boomers will slowly start dying off. And the surveys that are out there that I've heard about have certainly said that these boomers, when they hand their wealth down to their descendants is a massive percentage of descendants that have been surveyed, youngsters particularly, that have said, we're not interested in precious metals. We are interested in digital currencies that live in the ether, that live on a blockchain, that live on our phone. So, yes, of course, there are people that want to hedge and diversify their portfolio. I've seen some big players that have got so a percentage in gold, a percentage in Bitcoin, a percentage in equities, whatever it might be. I'm all in. I only want to invest in something that I believe is going to go to the moon, if you take that tongue in cheek, so to speak. I'm not saying people shouldn't invest in gold. Gold's got a 5,000-year history. When things go wrong, we know people come out and they go into gold. They put their money in what they refer to as the safe haven. And then the argument, Bitcoin is not a safe haven. Well, I believe Bitcoin is a safe haven. I just believe that we're in these tumultuous stages of where this thing is finding its feet. We've got more and more entities talking about it, getting into it. Kathy Wood from ARK, etc., to name just one. In terms of gold and silver, I don't know anything. I did buy some gold many years ago, at least 2.5 decades ago now, and I sold it. I didn't really understand it. I think I would have had quite a decent pot of wealth if I'd have held on to it for this long. But I just think I think Bitcoin is this asymmetric bet that I daren't say you can't lose on. If you look at the risk to reward, what am I risking and what is the potential upside of this thing? I always, from a layman's point of view, this is what I do. I look at 21 million coins. I look at the fact that somewhere in the region of 2 to 3 million are lost. The keys are gone. That poor guy from Wales in the UK that threw his computer down a landfill site, I think that's reared its head up again. 7,000 Bitcoins on it. And he's talking about re-excavating the landfill site again because of the value of the Bitcoins, right. 300 million.
The cost to mine has, the reward to mine that has gone way up.
Well, but the trouble is what happens if he pays I believe it's £7 million for the excavation process, and the hard drive's corrupt, smashed, whatever. If it's not an SSD drive, he's probably flogging a dead horse. But when you know that something you own that is worth 300 million is buried in the ground, I mean, that poor guy. So we've got these Bitcoins that are lost. So all of a sudden, as we go forward, I'm completely clear on if Bitcoin does what I believe it's going to do, then you're going to divide Bitcoin by 8 billion people on the planet. Another way to look at it is you're going to take the 400 trillion money that is out there in its entirety, and you're going to divide that into 19 million coins. And it doesn't take the brains of a rocket scientist to know what that could do if Bitcoin continues to grow. And here's the thing: we lost a massive amount of the hash rate as China banned the miners, and it dropped to 80 something percent, and I believe it's now up to 90 or 100%. That was pretty obvious that the hash rate was going to drop. And again, the mining council that Michael Saylor heads up said that could take 12 to 24 months for those rigs to move, reset up, get back up to full power again. And during that time, the hash rate's going to be a bit all over the place. I chose to learn that so that I would feel comfortable when the next bit of FUD rolls round, and that is, oh, look at the Bitcoin hash rate, it's dropping like a stone again, we've got another obituary coming. I'm past all of that, way past all of that. I'm literally, I say it on my show, buy some Bitcoin, get off of zero at the very, very least. A little bit, my gran taught me, she said, son, you need to save a little bit for a rainy day when I was young, savings account, put a little bit in your savings. And all Bitcoin is, and I've drummed this into my daughters, and that is just put a little bit away each month as a hedge, as a savings plan, and just forget it. Get on with life. Don't change anything you're doing. Don't put it on your credit cards. Don't sell your house. Don't remortgage your house. Just buy what you can afford to put, buy, and forget, and then let life move on as normal. And that way, if it all goes belly up, then you're okay. Yeah, you're upset because it could have been great, but it wasn't. Same as my wife and I. What we've invested, we can absolutely, totally afford to lose. Do I want to lose it? Will I probably vomit for a couple of weeks? Yeah. But if it did, we just move on as we are, living our life, enjoying life, 2 or 3 holidays each year, and nothing's going to change. If you do that, and you certainly don't over leverage yourself, then I have got this calmness about me that I don't care what the FUD's going on. I've just got this, bit of Bitcoin. I'm keeping it safe. I'm learning about, the different, mine's offline, stored in a Trezor. I've taken steps for security. I've learned all that stuff, and it will do what it's going to do when I say this on my show, Bitcoin's going to do what it's going to do when it's going to do it, good or bad, whether you or I get stressed about it or not. So why don't we just put a little bit by each month, 20 quid, 30 quid, $50, whatever you want to call it. Just put it by each month for a rainy day. I've got my daughter and my granddaughter, particularly my granddaughter, who's just turning 21. I know I don't look old enough, just turning 21. And literally I've said to her, if you put a little bit by each month and you do that for 20 years, if Bitcoin does what I believe it's going to do, I said to her, you will never, ever worry about financial hardship ever again. And that's my take on it all. I've learned loads, but sometimes I can't give you the reason why I believe it is going to do what it's going to do.
Absolutely. Well, that's powerful. And your conviction to what Bitcoin is going to do is the most bullish case ever. I mean, it's really a black hole for the monetary system in a way. I mean, as people see the failures of fiat, they see the debt problems, they see the problems with trusting centralized governments. What else do you go? Where else do you go? I mean, arguably maybe gold, silver, but Bitcoin is in many ways that black hole. And when you consider the fact that it's not you can't control it. It doesn't have limits. You can get on an airplane, turn on your computer, and you're in France with your money. I mean, that's pretty powerful when you consider what governments do when they try to control people. They box people in. They say you cannot move your money. I mean, I was in Vegas. I was just trying to get $200 out of the ATM. And the bank is telling me, hey, you can't do this. I'm like, oh, I'm just, I know you're trying to protect me, but I want to get a couple $100 out of the dumb ATM. And that's the things we're dealing with. So
we were on a Zoom call recently. There's a group of us Bitcoiners that follow my show. Once a month we meet up on Zoom, and we chat, get to know each other, talk Bitcoin offline. Well, online, but not live on YouTube or anything. And it was really interesting because one of my buddies that is out in California, we had a guy on the call from an oil rig 150 miles north of Scotland, and he's followed my show, and he's done what I always advise. He's gone back and from the very, very first video, 3 minutes and 49 seconds, and he's watched every single one of them from brand new in. And I always say to people, if you go and watch them 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, you can do 3 or 4 an evening when they're that short. And I said, over time, you will learn everything I've learned that I've tried to then deliver on my show. And you can, condense that into a couple of weeks or a couple of months and really get this. Anyway, he came on the Zoom call with us, and it was really interesting. We opened up Lightning wallets. I'm moving Bitcoin around, Satoshis around now on Lightning wallets, and absolutely loving it. And we had my buddy in California. He said to him, right, set yourself up a Moon wallet, an MUUN wallet. He said, once you've done that, he said, I want you to hold the QR code up to the camera. He held it up. He literally, my friend in California, he scanned that, and he literally sent him Satoshis, and they turned up in under 30 seconds on that guy's wallet on his phone, north of Scotland on an oil rig. You can't do that with money. You just said it yourself. It's a nightmare. Even though they are trying to protect you, it's a nightmare trying to move your money around, and certainly not across the Atlantic. And that is the power. Bitcoin, for me, is going to be the base money layer. It's everything that's built on top of it that I'm so excited about. This ability to move these Satoshis around in a heartbeat. I moved this morning, just messing around. I think I moved 40,000 Satoshis, and the fee was zero. You've got Jack Mallers with his Strike app doing what he's doing down in El Salvador. I mean, I don't fully understand it, but imagine those people that have moved out of El Salvador and they're working and trying to send money home to their families, and they are being charged 40% or whatever it is by Western Union. Now they put it into Strike app. It turns it into Bitcoin. It then spews it out the other end in their currency down there, and the family get paid, and Western Union get nothing at all. This is massive. This is so huge. And people, they think I'm off the wall when I talk like this. I can't sometimes get it out of my mouth, but it is just so huge for humanity. What's going on down in Nigeria with that company that's working down in Africa now. The guy was on the Miami conference. I can't think of his name, but Nigerians are being told by the government you can't use Bitcoin, and they're using this remittances and things down there, and I can't think what it's called, but it's just happening, and the dominoes are falling, but they'll fall slowly to start with. Then they'll gather momentum, and it's slowly, and then all at once. And whatever that all at once is going to look like, I can't tell you, but I believe that all at once is coming. I really do, because in 2017, when I got into Bitcoin, headline, Jamie Dimon says, if any of my employees are in Bitcoin, they'll be instantly sacked. Then his daughter says, Dad, I'm in Bitcoin. You had Warren Buffett, rat poison squared. You had nothing but negativity. Banks will never custody Bitcoin. Here we are 4 years later, and look at the landscape. Where do you think we're going to be in another 4 years? It is happening. Dominoes will go slowly, then they'll pick up momentum, and all of a sudden, I always say there are 3 types of people in this world. There are those that watch it happen. There are those that make it happen, those that watch it happen, and those that wonder what the hell happened. I intend to be one of those that make it happen. That's me. And that's all thanks to Adam Meister, by the way. That guy, I always pay him homage, but he has no clue Not a single clue what he has done for me on a personal level. I decided that I related to his energy, his passion, his core conviction, delay gratification. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. It's the apex predator. Personal responsibility is the new counterculture. I can reel them all off. Why? Because I have watched his show daily, every single day for 4 years and 1 month. Haven't missed one.
Wow. Yeah, lots of love for Adam. I mean, when someone changes your life, you can't explain, and you can't transfer that sort of feeling to somebody else. I mean, you just know what that did for you, and that's a powerful thing. And we were very fortunate. I feel grateful. I mean, luck, timing, to have had him on our show when Bitcoin was what, $700, $800 back in early 2017. I remember making a massive purchase at that time. In fact, full disclosure, I bought some Bitcoin while we were on the show right now, just to show, prove to myself how easy, once again, it is to transact and to get Bitcoin. So, Brian, let's close this interview. I mean, this has just been a great conversation. We're going to have you on again. Thanks so much for coming on the show. If people want to learn more about you, what you do, the work you're doing, and following your content, where can they go and what can they expect to find?
Sure. Well, I set up a YouTube channel, ukbitcoinmaster.com, and then another one, as you said at the top of the show, bitcoininterviews.com. I've interviewed what I believe to be some of the greatest Bitcoin thought leaders there are out there today, including Adam Meister 2 or 3 times, the great Rocky Palumbo. I've had Ansel Linder on, I've had Vortex on, Gabriel Devine on, BTC Sessions on, Has McCook from down in South Africa. I've had Stefan Livera on. So if you want to get a Bitcoiner's take, removing me from out of it, these big Bitcoiners, if you want to get their take on where they're at and what makes me so passionate, I would encourage you to go over to bitcoininterviews.com and definitely check those out, because there's some really great interviews in there. I've got an interview coming up shortly with a guy who's very, very prominent in the Bitcoin space. I don't want to name it at the moment because I want to announce it for my show. But this guy is all over Twitter right now. He's huge. It's on the back of this nation state scenario following El Salvador. So I'm so excited, hopefully to confirm that shortly. So do check out bitcoininterviews.com. I would encourage, my channel was initially put together, I called it the Bitcoin for Beginners show, because I was a beginner and I wanted to attract people that were new into the space that could learn some basic things. Listen to a guy that tells it as it is, doesn't flower it up, doesn't want to scam you out of anything. And then as it sort of grew, I sort of migrated that to the UK Bitcoin Master live show. But in essence, I guess as we go and we pick up and a bull run comes again, I'm hoping that as they pile into the space, people will go and find me at ukbitcoinmaster.com, and that is where I would say you will find everything that I do. I go live twice a week, every Monday and every Thursday at 6 p.m. London time. You will know what that is in your country or where you are, on the east or the west coast of the US. I'm on Twitter at UK Bitcoin Master as well. I put all my videos up on BitChute as well. They're on library.tv. I've got a podcast, UK Bitcoin Master Podcasts.com. So pretty well everywhere, something /at UK Bitcoin Master, and you can find my work. If you want to be inspired, if you want to talk to somebody who's in the rabbit hole, done stacks of research, doesn't understand it all, but understands enough to know that I am totally passionate about where this is going. If you want to be inspired, people, come twice a week and join my show.
Good.
Thanks
words.
for having me on this one.
Yeah.
It's been a blast.
Absolutely, Brian. Thank you so much. And thanks for your passion, and looking forward to where things are headed from here. It's a good road ahead. I'm really excited about it.
Well, it's great to have something in life to be absolutely passionate about, because it will add 10 years to your life. I always say knock 10 years off, but it'll add 10 years to your life. It's made me feel so much younger, zest for life, energy, constantly watching things about Bitcoin, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Good word. All right, Brian. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.